situation right here from Israel on boots on the ground. The first phase of the first stage of the agreement is underway. Red Cross vehicles traveled to a collecting point in the Gaza Strip where they picked up the 3 Israeli hostages from Hamas and brought them back to Israel. I must say, seeing the Gazan crowd cheering and celebrating at the sight of the 3 young women who endured unimaginable suffering is heartbreaking and infuriating. But it reminds us who we are dealing with. Unfortunately, however, our responsibility prevailed. Romy, Emily, and Doron were released from Hamas captivity after 471 days in hell in the Gaza Strip. They are on their way to freedom, on their way to Israeli territory after more than 13 months in captivity. Romy Gonen, Emily Damari, and Doron Steinbecher were seen walking on their own 2 feet, surrounded by thousands of people, including armed militants, in a horrific Hamas display. The IDF allowed the mothers to meet the released women at advanced reception centers even before their arrival to the hospitals. Hamas staged a show for the cameras, a ridiculous display of force at the hostage collection point that demonstrates exactly who we are dealing with. Meanwhile, around 50 prisoners are expected to arrive in the West Bank today. The army is planning strict measures to prevent terror attacks. The Palestinian Authority will try to prevent large-scale celebrations and the rising of Hamas and Islamic Jihad flags. The ceasefire agreement in Gaza and the hostage release deal is on its way. And this is how the first day will be unfold. The government approved the agreement for a ceasefire with Hamas and the return of the Israeli hostages who have been in captivity for 471 days. The release will be done gradually. Hamas has submitted a list of some hostage names, and as expected, there may be disturbances by Hamas and celebrations and marches ahead of the release of terrorists from Israeli prisons. Just before the ceasefire began, there were several critical operations that were carried out, and we'll bring you the details about those operations. The IDF is preparing for the ceasefire with reinforced readiness in all sectors. The Gaza Strip has been divided into 3 lines of defenses, and there is damage being inflicted on Hamas infrastructure by the Air Force that is on high alert, and the Defense Ministry has also declared that we will respond to any violation and renew combat if required. The IDF is also anticipating that Hamas will take advantage of the ceasefire to move to new locations, and the soldiers have been instructed to open fire only if there is a real threat to our forces or with the approval of a senior officer. There are also comprehensive plans on how to proceed in case the negotiations break down. In related development, the IDF found the remains of Staff Sergeant Oron Shaul, which have been held by Hamas for several years after his body was kidnapped into the Gaza Strip by Hamas in 2014. And later in the report, TBN Israel's senior Middle East analyst Mati Shoshani will brief us on the impact of the hostage deal on the Middle East and the changing power dynamics in our neighborhood. Additionally, there is anger in the Israeli Foreign Ministry at the United Nations as they reject claims regarding the extent of UNRWA's involvement in terror. Meanwhile, on the northern border, we are nearing the end of the ceasefire with Hezbollah, and they are threatening Israel again. But there are voices in Beirut saying they're in denial, and the Lebanese people definitely don't want the war to start up again. Meanwhile, the Houthis in Yemen are still there, and on Sunday morning, they gave us a reminder, launching a ballistic missile that sent millions of people in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem scrambling for shelter, including my family and I. The missile was intercepted and life went on, but a short time later, another missile was intercepted as it flew towards the Red Sea resort city of Eilat. This is a very important day in Israeli history, and we have a lot to talk about, so let's dive into the details.
Did you know that simply choosing products from Israel can have a big impact on real people?